So I've had some really wonderful experiences.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, on that topic,
2 days.
you got to tell us more about this aquarium.
Oh, the aquarium. So it's one of the activities that, and I'm probably going to get this kind of wrong, but in a bushfire, for example, the waterways get polluted, and the teams that work there in that space will go out and they collect the fish and the spore and they bring them all back into the aquarium and give them a safe environment to breed and live, and until the waterways are clear again for them to be able to release them back into the waterways. So the HVAC system in that space is really unique because it's got boilers that create, give it its humidity control. But it's a learning exercise of stuff that certainly didn't get working at a bank.
Welcome to the Let's Talk Facilities podcast, the podcast where we explore the insights, innovations and impact of the FM industry. My name's Aaron.
And I'm Ben. And today we have special guest Janene Hansford from
JLL. She sits on the Deca account. Deca?
I would say Deca.
Deca because 2 E's.
Oh, is it?
Department of Energy, Environment and
Climate Action.
That's it. And we chat all about change management, career journey and the longevity in the FM space.
Management.
Yep.
And management.
Fish we even get into fish management. You wait for that story. So it's a really interesting episode. And I think especially around managing increase of scope and having to ask of your vendors and your suppliers when things need to be done really urgently, who you can call on and how to call on them. So really interesting episode.
Let's jump in.
Looking for the buyout then? Just be open to change.
Just so good to spend I actually had to learn to do it because the question to every...
My brother had mushrooms growing in his car.
Fantastic spreadsheet is like gold.
Water starts pouring on me.
It's such a rewarding career.
Drag them down!
We love you all of our customers.
So Janene, you're in the middle of the crazy period. You were saying before everyone winds down for Christmas.
Correct.
But not you.
No, we don't. We wind up.
Yeah. So working for Deca, tell us about what is it that makes this period the busiest for you?
So Deca, what most people know of Deca, so I'll probably explain who Deca is. So Deca is the Department of Energy, Environment and Climate Action.
Yeah.
Previously DELP for a very long time, but now Deca.
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago they became Deca. And Deca is probably most known in the community. I guess people know of them as managing the bushfires or being the part of that bushfire response. And we look after, when I say we, a team at JLL. So I have a team that are amazing and only small. We're small and mighty. I always say.
It's always the way.
We're tiny.
A-team. Yeah.
They are the A-team. And I often refer to them as that. So they would be, very true, they are. We look after all their facilities. So their office depots around the state. So this is state government. Yep. We look after their fire towers. So we have a quirky portfolio of unusual asset types. That are not the norm. We don't have we have a couple of corporate buildings, but for the most part, we have a research institute and a laboratory, which has got laboratories and an aquarium.
Yes, you
wouldn't
think they would have an aquarium.
We'll go back to that. I want to ask, like most of the year, though, those buildings would probably sit with minimal occupancy, very unused?
No, they don't actually. Yeah, they just have a different...
different purpose.
They're doing different things throughout the year. Okay. So obviously throughout the whole year, they are working they're out in the field. So whether they're doing back burning or they're obviously the late end of summer, they do all the back burning, and then they have Parks Vic that sit with them, and then they've got field staff that are out in the bush and make. So when you go to a campsite and they've got all the signage out, all that stuff, they've got their own facilities that do all of that. Yeah. So those teams have got their own lathes and they're out there making signage for the bush and for the forests and. But their incident control centres, so part of that portfolio consists of sites that also become their incident control centres in the event of a bushfire or maybe a flood.
Which in these couple of months would drastically increase the number of people coming through the building.
Goes bonkers, yeah. So, a site that might have 30 people, maybe 50 people on site at any given time. You know, they fluctuate because you've got office staff and then you've got field staff that come and go. Then in a bushfire, that becomes, 300 staff because they run the incident from there. So all
what
the services.
What challenges do you then face with such an influx? Like at the drop of a hat, like you don't get warning about that sort of thing.
You don't get warning. No, that's very true. So the small things become big things.
Yeah.
So our job throughout the whole year is to make sure that their facilities are in tip-top condition. So we're making sure we do all the things that we need to do so that when they get to summer and that they're in that state, we're out of their way.
Yeah,
if we
of course.
can be. We're never out of their way.
Yeah, you're not planning like a refurb.
We don't even do that for them, but that's true.
Sorry, you can't access the site for these 3 months.
Yeah, but it's so we don't do all the routine stuff, but there's lots of stuff that you would be doing through the winter period on the sites. Obviously, towers, you can't do anything in the winter because you can't access them because they're on top of a mountain. So we have work that's busy all year, but just different.
Interesting.
So a different focus. But so then things like waste is a classic example of anybody else would think, what you could spend a day, and no word of a lie, I've spent an entire day trying to organise to get a waste pickup from a site that's in the middle of a bushfire mode because the roads get blocked. They generate waste. So these sites might only normally get a pickup every maybe once a month, most times probably twice a month. Some of the bigger sites might be weekly, but not often would you have a weekly pickup on these big sites because they have large skips, etc.
Yeah.
But in a bushfire,
of course,
they may need that
you're 10xing the amount of people
every
there.
second day. So you got 300 firefighters. They feed them on site. So you've got all that waste coming in and it's stinking hot. So it's...
you can't just go feed it to the bushfire, can you?
Like it's bizarre.
Although that wouldn't fit the climate action the name.
No, but it's just that it's a thing that anybody else would think, well, that will be what you would give the junior.
Yeah.
Right? Waste management.
Yeah.
It's just, can't you organise the bin?
But it's virtually impossible.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, if you think about it, you try ringing your council and saying, I want my bin picked up on Wednesday when they normally do Tuesdays.
Yeah.
You got Buckley's.
And especially when it's potentially regional as well because...
All regional.
Well, they're planning their routes,
weeks in advance.
Exactly. So
you can't just stop that. So
or if it's private collection versus council. Yeah.
Most of these are not council.
Yeah.
So the logistics of that is a nightmare because you're going through a call centre. You need to actually get to the depot and who is the depot? Who is it subcontracted to? And then can they drop everything that they've got to release a single truck?
Yeah.
And the truck's not going to go in the normal way. There's one way in potentially. So really true example is, this year we've just been the fires through Alexandra in that region towards Eildon. The site is Alexandra. The roads are all blocked off. There's one way in. We need to get bins emptied. And thankfully, one of our contractors, bent over backwards and the owner said, I will take the truck. I will take the truck because I'm the only person that has that liberty of being able to sit in a truck and just hang out and wait because they've got to join a convoy line to go through under convoy to get into that zone.
And I'm sure there's probably also like liabilities as well. He's factoring in. He's like, I don't know if I want my staff going out there, but I'll take, as the leader, I'll take the brunt.
Yeah, but it's a real sense of community. So you get a contractor like that goes, all right, I'll call you when I'm in the line.
Yeah.
I'll let you know. They're sending you a text message going, go and past the pub. I'm in. What else do you want me to do? So, this is that real sense of community and purpose where they're like that going above and beyond. And we use local, lots and lots of locals. So for an account the size that we have, we probably have the highest number of individual vendors in our portfolio. Over even a national contract because we use local providers and local contractors. There's a sense of urgency. It's also the sense of community. So they are the hub of the community. So, we try and support.
Does that make it hard if they're facing that their house is going to potentially be at risk of being burnt down? They're wanting to be at home to
Yeah,
protect their
it's-
space.
Look, cleaners is a classic where that happens. So, all our cleaners are local, and but duty of care is our number one.
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, we will just say, if you can't get to work and you can't get safely and you can't get home safely, then you don't go to work.
Yeah.
And the sites are great with that. They understand that whilst, they need it, but then you've got others that go, no, I want to go and do my job. I really want, because they feel like that's their giving back as well.
Yeah.
So we've got oodles of cracking stories of, cleaners going in the morning. They'll go in early in the morning and they'll literally be stepping over the fireys while they're snoozing on the floor, trying to get a bit of shut eye, and then they'll go do the barbecue or something, organised for them to.
Why is there a body-shaped outline of just dirt on this vinyl floor?
Yeah, and they'll go and do
around.
It's like they're great. They won't go and do the. You end up with an outline of great. Yeah. So seriously, we have loads of those sort of stories. Where they'll go, well, go and do the bathrooms, but I won't vacuum because I don't want to wake them. They're exhausted. And they may go for weeks and weeks. In that mode.
I imagine that makes. Oh, you were going to ask a question.
I was.
Have you been holding on to it?
I have been holding on to it. So I just wanted to touch on
boys.
this guy.
I talk too much. Ben needs to put a finger on the table or something like
Pause.
this. I've got one. Hold on.
Okay,
I will
Ben,
do
what's
that
your
from
question?
now on. I'll put a finger on the table. So you said you got a lot of vendors, contractors, small providers. That must have complexity in terms of having to manage them, because you would need to be doing your doing compliance on all of them, and how
it's a lot. We've got a
Making
lot
sure
of
they're all in
rigor.
Corrigo.
Yes,
whatever platform.
you're right. Lovely Corrigo.
There you go. Come on. We all know.
It's true. And you're right. It is, yes, getting them in the system. So it's about being approved in the first place. So, I guess some of the struggle that even our client has is they go, I know Billy Bloggs is a great contractor, and because they're community, they'll know him from the community, the mates at the pub and whatever else. But they might know he's a fantastic, or he or she's a great electrician or something, and they want them on the books for us to onboard them. But of course, there's a lot of rigor in the compliance, and for a lot of those small operators, it is a challenge, because obviously our job is to protect our client from risk. That's my number one job. At the end of the day, if I was to put it into words, it's mitigating risk. And whether it doesn't matter what form it is, that's our job. So, but we work really closely with a lot of vendors to try and help them get over, over the line, because we do know that a lot of contractors are great at the job they do. Their paperwork may not be the best.
This is the experience that we have because obviously we live, metro, so we know the drill. We've got our documents, all the processes up to speed. But when we need to engage a subcontractor regionally for whatever small job, oh man,
Sometimes it can be tough. And what we've got now in place is we have our process documents, and we try and work with our subcontractors. Like if we find someone in a regional area, a good example is just recently we needed someone middle of bumfuck nowhere. And
Good job,
we found someone. He's like, I do have
11 minutes. Need to beat that one.
But we found someone, and he's like, I do have that machine that you mentioned. I haven't used it in ages.
Yeah.
And I was like, and do you have
test and tag?
Yeah.
What do you mean test?
He's like, and I said, do you have this policy? He's like, no. Do you have this policy? So I work with him now to go, okay, well, let's get you up to scratch, because we would love to engage you to work on this account. We'd love you to be in the local banks and a couple of the major retailers in the area.
Absolutely.
And his business increases because
everybody wins.
Yeah, everybody wins. Yeah. And so you either need to find national providers that will work with local people. Yeah.
And look, we mandated with DECA, so we act as their agent, not principal, on contracts for this particular client. And local is their remit.
For some people who aren't part of a large firm like JLL or Cushwag or whatever, they're just employed by a regular business as an FM. What is the difference between agent and principal?
Sure. It's who owns the contract for want of a better word. So who's the signatory on the contract? Is it a JLL contract? Therefore, we would be the principal of that contract.
You get to make the decisions.
Yeah, or
Buck
we
stops with
manage
you.
it.
You
Buck
decide
stops
how you
with
spend
us.
the money.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of. For a simplified version, yes.
Okay.
Money's always the client, so it doesn't quite work that way. But,
Yes.
but the responsibility, I guess,
Yeah.
it's really around the responsibility. Whereas when you're agent, the client owns the contract, but we manage the day-to-day operations of that.
Okay.
That's the cut and dry,
Yes.
and my client is not quite cut and dry. So
Yeah, there'll be nuance.
there's
Yeah.
there's a few more nuances in there.
Yeah.
But
You can never put some
it's not
companies
quite
into
a-
one of the two.
No, it's not quite cut and dry like that.
Yeah.
But yes, that's essentially the difference.
Okay.
But we do, we have loads and loads of vendors across the state. That some of them small mum and dad operators, but some of our most trusted real experts in what it is that they do. They're
Oh,
just individual.
Yeah.
And they can't do the whole state because the magnitude of that is too far because we're in remote locations.
Hmm.
We're all the way from Casterton on the South Australian border to Corryong on the New South Wales border or
Yeah.
Yep.
Bendock where you've got to go over the border and come back. So because access through the mountains. So,
Yeah.
it's not a portfolio that having a Melbourne contractor
Yeah,
makes any sense
yeah.
because it's going to take them 6 hours to get there. That's a
Yeah.
long time when you need someone now.
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's got lots of quirks, but it's got purpose. And I think, I've been in this industry for a long time. I'm certainly not new in the game.
Yeah.
And I've worked for large corporate organisations, and they've all got things that I've loved about each of those. But I think the difference with this client is, it does give me purpose
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
we get while we're there. We
You're
see
serving the community.
And you feel like, you're making a difference.
Yeah, we see the bigger picture. And I think, when I get called in the middle of the night, and that's quite often, is I get why I do it.
Yeah.
And it's not about money. It's not about any of those things. It's about if they're ringing, they need something.
Yeah.
Being able to be there at your client's time and need. So we work through Christmas. We work through Easter. Almost every Easter, there's been an issue that I've.
Really?
I'm 8 years in.
Well, yeah, that's like
It's
Christmas,
a bit-
Easter are the two fire
Yeah, it's
seasons.
the fire, and it's it just so happens that Easter's quite. I don't know why Easter, but Christmas always is busy.
Yeah.
But we work right through. But this year has been hard. It's been a rough year for them. So we've
Shout out to all of our fireys and all the
set
first
the fireys.
responders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and all the contractors that are doing their bit. We've got cleaners and all sorts. Most contractors bend over backwards to make that work and do whatever it is, and they help each other.
Well, it makes
So a
sense.
contractor has
They also see the
nothing-
bigger picture.
Yeah, contractors that have got nothing to do with a particular site just go, yep, we'll just do it.
Yeah.
We'll do it and we'll work out the logistics later.
So my question from before, now I've got my finger up, it was around going back to that waste management piece. So you got some local providers that are doing your day-to-day cleaning and stuff like that, which is great. But there's some things that you obviously are getting a larger provider and statewide to
Absolutely.
just do the waste management, for example.
Yep.
Does that give you extra drive in procurement? Working for something that gives you that purpose that you were just talking about, does that give you extra drive in the procurement stage to push them and say, hey, from December to March, that's going to be a time where we might call you and say, at the drop of a hat, and say, we need to increase our bin pickups. As part of signing you onto this contract, we need a commitment from you that you'll bend over backward for us in that period.
Yeah, look, we even go a different step. So we use a provider that becomes our, what for a better word, a broker. So a waste broker. So waste companies are not the easiest people to deal with. It's fair to say. They are a minefield.
It's garbage, isn't it?
We need them. We absolutely need them. But they're a challenge.
Yeah.
Because if you step outside the confines of, yes, we do Tuesdays or we do whatever days, right?
Yeah.
So we use an organisation that looks after all of our waste because they broker all of the individual providers. So they work to understand what's the best deal you're going to get in that region.
Yeah.
And classic might be all the waste recycle centres out in regional Victoria a couple of years ago, a huge amount of them closed. So the war on waste and the issue around, we used to send our waste to China.
Yeah.
We don't do that, or we can't do that anymore. So those waste stations or transfer stations closed. So the cost of waste is a massive cost because
And it's
you've
going
got
to
to
just
move
keep
it.
increasing.
Yeah, and you've got to move it. So, no longer can you just take it from, Casterton to wherever. It's got to go miles to get to somewhere.
And for your client, you can't just burn it either.
Correct. Yeah. Well, that's right. It's sustainability is a really big part of our remit.
Yeah.
So
and it's fire bans.
that doesn't help. Well, yeah, they can put the fire out very well. They're well versed at that activity. It's interesting. So, but we got all sorts of waste. So we don't just deal with. We have truck washers. So we have hazardous waste.
Oh, of course.
So we have, so we've got lots of, our sites are almost akin to like defence. We have lots of stuff that goes bang.
Yeah, I can imagine.
A lot of trade waste, wash bays, big, because they've got to wash all the trucks.
Yeah.
So we have big wash bays.
Are they all connected to sewage and stuff like that? Like
septic, we have regions, so we have septic as well. So we have lots of really unusual stuff. So the FMs that work in my team are highly technical because they have way more things to deal with than most of your, FMs that are working in a corporate building.
Yeah.
Wouldn't even know what a triple interceptor was.
What is a triple interceptor?
See, there you go. I read my
imagine
case.
it intercepts things 3 times.
Boom. You're hired.
It's got 3 stages of
He was actually looking for a job.
I'm so glad we've had you on as a guest.
Education 101 right there.
Yeah. So stepping away from what you're currently doing, because you've been around the block.
I've been around the block.
You've been around for a while. You've been doing this thing. Like some people I talk to say they just fell into the piece.
I did.
Let's go right back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Did you fall into it?
I fell into it, yeah. I had a career prior to property in HR.
Okay.
I sold people for a living and
The human trade.
human trafficking right there.
There's laws against that.
Yeah, we have policies in place.
Yeah, well, we were licensed, I guess.
You were licensed to
It
do
was
it.
a different time. Aaron.
Different time. Yeah, so I spent a long time in recruitment and then in training and in that space for a long time, internal and external HR.
Yeah.
And hundreds and hundreds of people. I worked for Telstra. That was an old story, but I worked for Telstra in the mobile boom, the very implementation of mobiles.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Oh.
Would have been rapidly growing.
Hundreds. It was insane.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
literally on a fax machine getting what they call fax, right? People wouldn't even know what that is. Fax machine getting what they called a requisition, and that came through and it said 849 people, and I thought it was a typo. I thought they'd somehow added a number on either end of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well, where do you want the 49 people or the 84 people?
Yeah.
And they're going, well, they go in Tasmania, but the other 100 go here and 400 go there and everywhere across the country. Wow. Requisition to hire over 800 people in one job order. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So that was a really exciting time, but that's a long, long time ago. It was
Yeah.
back in my 20s. I grew up very, very quickly.
Yeah, and so then how did you stumble into FM from
Yeah,
that?
so I worked in HR for a long time, and then I guess the further up the rank I became, I became a policy writer and a policy pusher, and I needed to be where the people were. So it just no longer gave me the joy, I guess, that I wanted to do. So I fell into real estate. I'd always had an interest, and I went into general real estate. So I sold houses. So from people to people said, that was a bizarre transition, but it wasn't actually. It's just a different commodity.
Did you do auctions?
I didn't do auctions.
I was about to ask you for your auction voice. $5 bundle.
I learned to do auctions because I was a licensed estate agent, so I got my license. And, but I specialised in project sales. So I loved the lengthy sale, creating a vision for somebody. So something that wasn't there. So it's a love-hate. Agents either love that or hate it.
Yeah.
I loved the process. I really enjoyed it. It was, helping somebody.
We've got a master plan. You're going to buy into this.
Well, it's really more about understanding what does somebody want, really listening to that stuff about what are they looking for and then helping them with that vision.
Yeah.
What is that, is this going to be right for them or is it not,
Which is an important skill to have in that world of FM.
Well, it was great. So then I fell into, so I did a whole lot of, I worked, 10 years of every weekend straight because that's what you do when you're on straight commission. You never turn the phone off and every possible call is a deal. So
Tell me about it.
It's a
You're not straight
lonely,
commissioner.
I was at one point.
it's a lonely life in many respects because I was, it's in my 30s and, my friends are all having weekends and I'm working. So I used to have a Friday off, when everybody else is working and go and do something else. But so after that, I decided to go into commercial real estate. Obviously, they're Monday to Friday. They don't want to talk to you on a weekend. They're doing deals 9 to 5 and that's it.
Dream job.
Yep.
As a real estate agent.
And I was one of next to no women. Like there were no women in commercial real estate.
Yeah.
That makes sense back then.
At the time,
Yeah, well, I sold factoriettes and industrial sites. So, that's nearly 20 odd years ago. There was no one in that space.
It may have even given you an edge.
Well, it did actually because, and I'll say it, I didn't have to fake sincerity.
Yeah.
So, I should say to the guys that, maybe just learn to fake it because, then you don't sound like a jock. But it was true, it did give me an edge in many respects because I could just talk to them about, what their needs were or what they weren't. And I did commercial real estate for a long while. I did a stint it was a reasonable stint in the retirement sector. I did house and land out at Delphin, miles away out in Craigieburn. I hated that. But anyway, that was a bizarre period of time in my life. We literally sold land out of a barrel.
Yep.
With land release, everybody would put their options in. And on no word of a lie, I stood at a site on a Saturday morning with security guards because they used to have fights. It was hideous, but exciting.
I remember this.
This was bonkers.
What happened with my parents? So when they bought a block of land in Lorimer, that was one of the first block of lands in Doreen.
Yep. That's it. Exactly.
And it was like a draw.
Yeah, so I had a glass barrel, perspex, but same. And I remember when I started and they said, we've got the guards booked for you. And I'm like,
because people desperately want
it, yeah.
A block, yeah.
And then their cousins and their brothers and friends and they all want the court.
Yep.
So when a land release was done, I was like,
want the
my
commune.
God. And they did. Yeah. So there's, so literally they would get into fisticuffs supposedly.
Oh, wow.
So I'd pull out a land lot and I'd have to read it out. And if they were in the room, they would, sign up.
And then they could pick which one they want?
No, they'd have to already put in their options.
Oh,
1, 2 and 3, whatever it was.
Yep.
And you'd reel it out.
Oh, wow.
Land lot number 101 and off you go and sign over. But then you go pull out 101 again and they can't have it because they desperately want it. But, it was bizarre.
Wow.
So that was, So it was stocks and shares. We'd go and release the land to, like a Metricon, so they'd work out what their thing is. So that was another period of my life.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was I digress. And anyway, after doing retirement sector, I had a friend who was in property, rang and wanted to stay, and she said, "You're not looking for a job, are you?" And I'd just gone back after maternity leave, and I'm like, "Nah, well, I'm all right now, but we'll have a chat maybe."
Yeah, always
and
open.
Then, literally out of left field, I was retrenched on a Wednesday, and I've rung this girl going, we probably need to have that chat quicker.
Yeah.
So she said, ring this guy. And it was a guy, a wonderful man, John Burgess. So for a call out, shout out for John. I think he's now still over. He's back with JLL. I think he's over in San Fran or Chicago, maybe Chicago now.
When I hear John Burgess, I think of the voiceover guy.
That's what I thought.
From The Price is Right, isn't he, John?
Right. No, that's not him.
Come on down.
Cracking. Great man.
Okay.
And so they ring him. So I literally was, hired to do a temp job, and that was for ANZ. It's for the ANZ Centre on the project team. And then I never left. I went in there.
You fell in love.
Fell in love with that part of the world. So that's how I got into FM.
So good. Well, there are similarities between what you're doing now running a team with the HR where you started.
Oh, totally. The people piece is
So it
exactly
makes
the
sense.
same, that stakeholder management, you're dealing with client, not dissimilar. It's just you're just using the skill
different.
differently.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, really similar.
And you were talking to me the other day about back in the day, facilities were so different to what they are now. And I guess you've got to see that whole spectrum and the time of change, and you've had to manage some of that change.
It has been crazy. But it's been fascinating.
Yeah.
To watch it. If I think about ANZ was an extraordinary client. I loved my time. That's where I met, some of you and your peers.
They are an
But it was
We love them too.
$10 right there.
hopefully more. They made record profits last year, Janene.
I'll put up my price. So that was an extraordinary building, like state of the art. It had everything that was ever going to have. ANZ Centre was
like a shopping centre.
It was amazing. Quite an extraordinary building to work in. Great client. I've got very, very fond memories of my time there. And they were already agile. They were way ahead of the game. But I left there.
Do you know when Ben and I were teenagers, we used to clean inside that building?
That's true.
For this company.
Yeah, well, that's how I remember
Started
you
from
guys.
the bottom.
We started from the
Started
bottom.
on the bottom. And look where you've got.
Both
some
went and walked away, had different lives, and would come back. But we were in that. Yeah, it was a beautiful space.
Magnificent building.
Yeah.
And cleaning.
We're probably
was
doing
hardcore.
the work on a work order you issued.
It probably, well, I looked after all that underground
Yeah.
floor and all the shiny surfaces and the stone and every different type of surface. That
Yes,
was crazy,
Yeah.
crazy. So it was beautiful, beautiful building.
It was.
But when I left there, I went to another very, very large organisation, but it was just run different. And, I guess I could say it. They were draconian. You're talking about, and it's fine to say Australia Post, when I joined, still was in offices.
When you say offices, you mean like everyone had their own
They
little
all had
cubicle offices?
Yeah, they had,
really?
they had some open plan, but
wow.
you've got loads and loads of offices still. Which was the pinnacle for a lot of people, is to get the corner office. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
They work their life to get the office.
Oh,
you
no.
know?
And then you
then
come in
with some
you've
program that you named Agile.
Right?
And you've come from ANZ where they've got tennis tables in the foyer.
Well, I just thought I couldn't understand why we needed more space all the time with
Yeah.
another building.
That makes
And
sense.
going,
Tear down the walls.
literally, I was like, what are we doing here? The money is bonkers.
Yeah, of course.
but
Because
it's
offices
waste.
take up a lot of space.
Yeah, they take up a lot of space, and also it had great big snowflake desks. So you've got these very, very large. So the amount of square meters per person
Yeah.
is huge. So you're like, we could just condense those and make them linear, and we can put 20 extra people in there.
Yeah.
So I remember introducing them to a project, and I said, if the property team don't do it first, we've got to lead from the front, because the rest of the organisation is going to think we're trying to chop their arms and legs off.
Yeah.
Little did I know that the property people also felt we were trying to chop their. There were individuals that felt that way, that they were like, what on earth? So we literally, by stealth, we did it of a group. We did a group of desks, and overnight we went in and we cut down. We literally cut the desks as they were and refit them together. So we didn't go and buy anything new.
Okay.
So we
How
were like,
sustainable
we
of you.
wanted to show, we wanted to show that corner off that big snowflake could be lopped off.
Yeah.
And we'll put those together and make them linear. And all of a sudden we created a new space that, fits so many
And you can
people.
still do the same job you were doing
and
just
you
as
can-
effectively.
And quite frankly, you might even
someone
like
else
it.
can do a job
Yeah.
too.
But you might actually like it because you've got somebody sitting beside you, not 5 meters away from you. So that was the first of the projects, and that progressively became a bigger deal and a bigger deal. And then they decided to refit the building. So when I was there and we did that, so the 111 was a major project. So that's, they refit 2 floors at a time. Obviously, big contractors came in to do that, but being who we were, not us, i.e. not Cushman, so I worked for Cushman and Wakefield at the time. Not so much us,
the
but
competitor.
it was more around that cycle that we talk about.
Yes.
So the amount of waste that gets, taken out of an office when you're talking a building that's 10 stories full to the brim of desks, and you've got to do that stuff overnight.
Yeah.
So we started working with lots of different, looking at, pushing the boundaries on how could we, I hate throwing anything away.
Yeah.
So we worked with a company called Pony Up for Good, and I'll shout out to Pony Up for Good. So they were very quite new at that stage, and
this is before that whole circular economy thing was cool.
They used to originally deal with monitors, so screens and keyboards, and they would take all of that. And I remember going, what about the monitor arms? Those things are worth a fortune. And also for us to remove them, it was easier to take the screen and the monitor arm off together.
Okay.
So we reversed it. We went back to them and said, this is how much money you could make off this. And then they give some of that donation goes back to the food hubs and whatever else.
Okay.
So it was new.
What were they doing with it? Recycling or reselling?
No, reselling. And a lot of it went overseas and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, that was new to them. So we introduced a product that they didn't think of because they just didn't think that would be something they could use. And it was great, really, really successful for them. So then we were able to measure the waste and how much was going back to the communities and back to what it was
back into being used.
Back into being used, yeah. And then what are the benefits that they were getting out of that? Yeah. So that was a really good exercise. I remember even things like artwork, the sculpture that was in the basement of the building, in the lobby of the building, was this massive big piece of metal. But it was, it was artwork. It was, I couldn't sell it. I couldn't give it away. I was spending weeks and weeks. And I even went back to the artist who did it. Do
you want it back?
I've gone, surely you'd be proud of it and you'd want it put somewhere. I was thinking, like Heidi Museum, put that on a plinth and make it look great and, but it's bizarre. But that stuff, it's bizarre that things like that, I couldn't. In the end, we had to give up on it. My GM in the moment at the time just said, I know you've worked hard on this, but I think it's time we just let it go.
Yeah.
It's got to go to scrap metal.
Yeah.
And, it's bizarre that stuff like that.
Yeah. A lot of the FM job is about managing people these days. Like back in the day, it was managing buildings and making sure everything was running. A lot of the experience now is managing people, and that change process that you're talking about of being the person that everyone hates because you're saying, hey, there's a new way and it's a better way. And they love you at the end of it.
Yeah.
But there's that awkward space in the middle of managing change.
Yeah.
You would have learnt a lot about that over your time. Like what have you learnt about change management?
I've grown up, and I think I've learnt stakeholder management can be really challenging, really challenging, because everybody's, I think, people get very passionate about this space, and about what their remit is or their environment, whatever it is. A lot of people find their desk and their space at work, for some people probably even defines them. It's their thing. You go to those desks that have got the little wobbly-headed little thingy-majiggies on it, and they've got their photos the photos and the cat and the dog and whatever else, and that's their sanctuary, and if that's not your thing, and for me it wasn't my thing.
No.
I needed to learn some humility that for some people that is their
It's
thing.
important to them.
It's really, really important to me. To them, it wasn't important to me. I was just like, desk's a desk, doesn't really matter where I work. I'm a waste of really good technology, to be honest. I work off a laptop and I'm really happy with that.
And are you an extrovert?
No.
Oh, really? That surprises me.
Yeah. Yes, most likely. But I also like my own space. I like time out. But that desk space thing wasn't my deal. Like I couldn't have cared less where you put me.
No.
Just didn't care.
Yeah.
But for lots of people, they do.
Yeah.
So for them, and when you're dealing with people that is their thing, they really do feel like, well, it's an adjustment, and for some, a really big adjustment to know that no longer do you have your space, your thing that you're going to come back to every day. And there's still lots of people that take their stuff out of their locker and put it on their desk, because that's the thing is that, is the familiar to them and has them feel that sense of belonging, I guess is what it is.
But I think it would be hard for people that have had that for many years.
Oh.
And then for that change, as opposed to people who are just new to the organisation and this is how we do it.
Yeah, that's right.
And so it's like, well, that's how we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, there's lots of other people that have got things that outside of that being their space might have anxiety around moving around.
Yeah.
And if you're not cognizant of that and understanding that just because that's not me and that's not my thing, that may well be someone's, they're real triggers. And there's lots of people where I learnt some real lessons in that space of really understanding that for some people, it's a massive, massive deal, and it's more than just about what I like. It's a physical, a physical reaction.
Yeah.
So it was. So I did. I learnt to have more humility. I think was probably something that was really important in that space, rather than being so gung ho. I was like, let's get in there and let's just do it and achieve something and let's move on.
Yes,
that was kind of the way I like to work. Get on and see
Leaving
it.
devastation in your wake.
I remember when I was managing some big changes in an organisation once. I read a book. I read a book called Who Moved My Cheese. Fantastic book. If you're a facility manager, it's like a really small, easy read, and it's like what's it called? Like an allegory. It's like a story about these mice and the cheese, like very good. And there's another one about these penguins and the icebergs melting and they've got to move. And one penguin's trying to tell them, well, if we move over here, we'll survive. And it's about managing penguins that didn't want to move and didn't want to change. Great books about change management, but it goes into that whole psychology of it takes humility. It takes that understanding that there are other people who haven't been along on the whole journey, and we've come to this point where we've made this decision, but they had no idea.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we're saying we're doing this now.
Yeah.
You got to take people on the journey.
And look, don't get me wrong, I'm not a change specialist. We bring people in to do that, and that is they are experts at that, and they're really, really good at it. But, you need to, when you're in it and you're dealing with it, you need to understand what other people are going through and have some compassion for the fact that it's not the way they've done it with it for years and years and years. Some people have been in those organisations, and when you're talking about an organisation like that, we're talking years, people that might have been 25, 30 years in the same organisation. All of a sudden you're telling them you don't have the same desk anymore.
Yeah.
You're like, what the? Yeah.
You got to hire security for that job too.
I hid.
I stopped you from telling me a story before we pushed record because I was like, we can't. I want to hear this story in person. But you basically at Ozpost, you guys went from having lots of space that wasn't needed anymore because of some of these changes, and mail was sorted at a different spot now, and so you went from having big spaces to little spaces, and you had unused space.
Yeah, like if you think about the evolution of post, the way letters were, everybody had letters, and
email wasn't a thing at one point.
It wasn't, right?
That's true.
So all your things came in the mail.
Yeah.
So small centres, like in a shopping centre, would have a post shop, and they might have managers' offices upstairs, and they would have a sorting centre there. And these were big sites. That footprint changed. So then you've got a delivery centre that does all that sorting and brings the most of it is all pre-sorted. There might be some sorting, but you're talking it's coming in pre-sort. So the rest of that space now no longer exists or isn't required. You can do a meeting now over Teams. They don't need to bring everybody in for a management meeting. That boardroom that they had upstairs no longer is required anymore. So did some work with, because I was quite passionate about it, and I was lucky to meet some people on the Australia Post side that this was, social enterprise sort of work, and was brilliant, and they wanted to have a look at it. So what they looked at is a huge portfolio of not disused, but surplus, for want of a better word. Yeah. And some of these sites you couldn't sell because the post shop's still there. They might be there at the front. And a good example was one we did. So we did a startup. So we worked on working to find some startups that were out there, and then offer them the space and work with them we separated out the shop at the front, and then they had already had their own access, but we put a bathroom in and whatever else. And then there was a startup that went upstairs. So we used a whole lot of furniture, like it was a bit like shopping. I loved it. One of the sites we'd shut down and we had all this furniture, even things down to the plants. So we're like, what do we need? So we're looking at it and we're like, how do we do all of this for nothing? So the desks and chairs, soft furnishings, literally the plants out of a property that we were shutting down, took it all in, created this really fantastic startup, and it was really, really rewarding. It was fantastic to be able to get this company off, from being a kind of back of a garage kind of, and they created, it was the beginning of a WeWork, like a WeWork. It was a work centre.
Oh,
so
interesting.
it was way back before co-working was what it was. It was a co-working space. And they were, so it was just how do we reinvigorate, and gave them a crack, and they started this space. It's great. I don't even know if they're still in existence today, but I'd be keen to know actually. But
Well, if you're listening.
If you're listening.
Yeah, reach
Probably
out.
not, let's be honest.
They might not. They might
There's so much competition now in
I
that
know.
co-working
This was-
podcast.
it was a co-working space. So, we had all the stuff. We had old monitor arms and desks and chairs and everything. Put it all in there. Literally the toaster. I took out the toaster. It's like, what are you going to do with that?
I'm putting it in a kitchen.
I'm putting that in a box and I'm driving it down there.
Yeah.
But it was a rewarding experience. It's not something that was, out of the box, and it wasn't my remit. It was just that I'd had a really great relationship with someone in that space in post, and they needed some, and I had a colleague of mine that had introduced me to and said, I think you might really like this space. And I'm like, this is
I like that, because I speak with facility managers often who have, since COVID, had to downsize office spaces or whatever, but they've still got the rest of that space because they've signed a lease or they own the space and they've got it. And they're like, we don't know what to do with it. And what a fantastic way to pay it forward.
It was that.
Yeah.
It was absolutely. Mind you, it was not cheap to do it. It sounds like the fit out was all fine. So for the startup, it was fine, but the separation was hard. You've got the DDA requirements. I know we used to joke about the bathroom being the most expensive toilet ever because we had to put one downstairs for the staff downstairs. We had to segregate because it was upstairs. So, you've got some things in there, but the paying it forward, absolutely brilliant. And the hope was that it would reinvigorate the shopping centre, give it something
like a
that gave it
hive
life.
activity.
Yeah, that's what it was about. So it had a dual purpose. So we'd worked with the this little shopping centre management group. They were like an owners corp, but they weren't.
So when you're saying a shopping centre, you're not talking about a big mall like a Westfield. You're talking
Like a strip.
a little strip of shops, like a fish and chip shop, a kebab shop.
That's exactly what they were. $2 shop, and the post shop's still there. So it was
Still there today.
I think they're still there. Yeah. I don't think they've moved. Yeah, they're still there. But it was about reinvigorating, because those little places they'd all die off. And we used a model. There was a really great study that was done in Newcastle quite many, many years ago, when Newcastle had a Westfield had opened up. I don't know whether it was Westfield, but one of those. So it had a huge shopping centre open up out of the city centre. So the city centre died, which often happens. And then you get all these shops that are vacant, vandalism increases, all of those things became
it's like a downward spiral.
It's really, really quite drastic. And I can't even recall who it was that started it, but what they did is they've gone, all these shops, let's give them out but put them on peppercorn leases and get startups and those that new businesses and unusual businesses, art. And I remember there was a surfboard company. This guy was doing surfboards, and he was really, really, that was his thing. And people were going out getting all the white paint they could get. It didn't matter of the different tones of white, because once you mix it all together, it'll be the same,
it's
right?
white.
So then they painted all the, paint their office or paint their shop. But they reinvigorated Newcastle based on doing this sort of piece of work, like a cracking, really great story. And it became a precinct, became a hive to go for creative stuff. There was lots of small creative startups that had these, a whole mall, and brought people back into the centre for a reason, gave them a point of difference that wasn't going to your normal chain shops, for example. You're not going to your country roads, your witcheries, or whoever else it is that you're going for that. You're going there as a destination for other stuff, and reinvigorated the centre of the city.
That's interesting.
Quite many years ago, but yeah, that was the model we were working off. Is that this is something we could give a try and see if it worked. So
there you go.
And then I left, so I don't. And the person that was doing it as well from the post side left as well. So I'm not quite sure. He was a fabulous individual. So I had some, I've had some really wonderful experiences in this industry doing things that are a bit quirky but yeah, very.
Well, it's not a boring industry. It's not a boring job, is it?
Well, on that topic,
2 days.
you got to tell us more about this aquarium.
Oh, the aquarium.
Oh yeah, we put a pause on that.
a pause on it, and I want to come back to it.
So there's a site they call the Arthur Ryler Institute.
With Dika.
Yep. Yeah. And I didn't know. I was like, why do you have an aquarium? So it's one of the activities that, and I'm probably going to get this kind of wrong, but in a bushfire, for example, the waterways get polluted. Obviously, all the ash and those waterways. So we have great big boat sheds full of boats, and the teams that work there in that space will go out and they collect the fish and the spore, and they bring them all back into the aquarium and put all the fish back in the aquarium and give them a safe environment to breed and live. And until the waterways are clear again for them to be able to release them back into the waterways. So they've got, and the wayfish, news to me, but fish are like
News to everyone.
like a lot of animals, your space is your space. So wherever your habitat is, and particular fish will have a, different habitat. So, the Murray River has different and different areas of the river,
like the ecosystem,
different species, different species.
So what
of
you're
fish will
saying
be there.
is
they
fish
put
don't
them
like
back.
agile workspaces. They like their office.
Boom, right there. So they'll put them back into the same space. They've got to, so they wait for that. They cleanse the water and they do all the sort of things they can, and obviously the environment restores itself after a fire, obviously.
And they'll put them back.
And then they put them back to where they took them out of, because that's their habitat.
So as an FM looking after...
We don't do too much in the space. So we make sure that it's got humidity control and it's quite a unique space. So we don't need to worry about the fish and the tanks.
No,
But we need to make
there's
sure
unique
stuff.
Like problems that would come with an aquarium.
Yeah, because it's a corporate building with an aquarium.
Oh.
That has its whole other nuances.
So it's like an office building.
It's like an office building with an aquarium. And
what's the weight loading of the floor? That's the first question that comes to my mind.
Well, it's not an aquarium. It's not like going.
It's just got tanks.
It's got tanks.
Yeah. But it's got controlled, temperature controlled, and humidity controlled areas. So the HVAC system in that space is really unique because it has got boilers that create give it its humidity control. So when it breaks down, it's not fun to fix because it's not your norm.
Yeah. Are there other unique considerations that you've never thought of before that come into play when you're looking after aquariums? Like, do you have to look after the upkeep of sourcing water or?
No, we don't really, because that's a very operational activity.
Yeah.
So the same site, though, has laboratories. So over time, the laboratories are no longer used for the same purpose they were originally, because originally they were really mostly around fish, so fisheries, and that was the nature of what the building was for. And that's evolved. So they do other laboratory work there. But the infrastructure in those laboratories are now no longer the same. So, like a fume cabinet. So the fume cabinet originally was there to take out the fish smell. But because you've got a fume cabinet there, you're like, oh, well, I can do other experiments in there. But it's not designed to take out chemical smells. It's designed to take out fish smells. Yeah. So you've got, compliance in laboratories is quite a unique space. Yeah, so quite different. Certainly not my specialty, but I learnt lots of stuff really quickly.
Yeah.
But we have all the hazards that come with chemicals. So, that's the big deal is you've got chemicals that are stored outside. Are they compliant? Bring those chemicals in and take them up a lift. that's not your norm for most spaces. So the compliance around hazardous area is a big deal. I've got staff in my team that are really good at this stuff, but because we've got jet fuel, we've got helicopter fuel at our sites. So you get a site full of drums of Jet A1 fuel, that stuff goes bang.
Yeah.
And not when it's full, goes bang when it's empty.
Yeah, the fumes are more
Fumes.
flammable.
So lots of people go, oh, well, the drum's empty. So, but you pile all those together and sit them in the sun. You've got, but when you think about it though, in a bushfire, they're bringing that stuff in and
of course.
They don't have the time to take back out again. So you may have a very, very large. So it's about, that's their side to manage. It's not something that we have to manage, but we need to manage the impact
that something could have, the risk.
It's the risk. It's the risk if that's not dealt with. So it's it's just stuff that you've got to be conscious of, know that it's there, work together. So you work with, what do we got to do? How do we help, mitigate the risk? But it's a learning exercise of stuff that certainly didn't get working at a bank.
Well, it's so different. And that's what I appreciate about these chats with every different FM has such unique experiences, and it shows that this is not a boring space.
God, no.
And so for people who are stepping into it, because I know that there's a lot of turnover, but for people stepping into this space, it's like, hey, the opportunities out there, you might just be in a little 2-level office space right now, but the opportunities that you can get from that.
Yep.
And the interesting stories you'll have to tell one day are so boundless.
Old and grey.
You're not grey or old.
Thank my hairdresser for that. So it is. It can be really, really interesting. And I think, look, you got to find your space, find your thing. But if you've got a curious mind, I think that's probably the thing I would encourage people to be curious. Because I think every FM job is going to have something that could be unique, and if you look for them, you'll find the joy. Whether you're looking after a heritage building or a bank with gold in the roof and amazing shiny surfaces and lots of fabulous stone and pigs with trays on their heads and remember those and the baseball and the baseball gloves.
I know what you're talking about.
The baseball glove seats.
For those who don't.
Oh, we get it. No, don't worry. We'll move on.
Soft furnishings that are challenging but creative.
Yeah.
But find your thing. I think be curious.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. I know we're running out of time. If there's something you've left unsaid, what's a piece of advice or something that you're burning to say for an FM? Young FM out there starting out, what would you say?
Don't feel like you can't change jobs. Your next job doesn't have to be your last job. Ask lots of questions.
Yeah.
Ask lots of questions. Find someone that you can learn from. So if you find somebody that knows more about something than you do, and ask questions. And that doesn't mean to be find yourself a mentor.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily need to be, it's not like, going on a date. You don't have to ask them, can you be my mentor? Recognise the things that you like in somebody or that you admire in somebody and just absorb them. You don't actually have, I think a lot of people think that having a mentor needs to be an arrangement that you've both locked in.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. You could have multiples that you just take the things that you like about someone and that would be some of the advice I'd give to, because if I think about my career, I've had loads of them. Some of them have been formal, but many of them have been informal.
Yeah.
But find yourself a person that you can bounce ideas off and ask, but it doesn't have to be formal.
Yeah.
Let's say there's an FM out there, they're a lone ranger, like they're not part of a big org like JLL or something like that. Where would they find someone like that who gets the FM space?
Mine were my clients. Very big portion of my mentors were my clients. They were people that I admired for what they did, the things, the way they were with people. Depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah.
But if I think about them, there was those. find the things that you find interesting. They don't even have to be in your industry. We learn lots and lots of stuff from people that are not in our industry. Sometimes it's better that they're not because it's not about the skill you learn as an FM. It might be the transferable skill that you use as an FM.
Yeah.
So they don't have to be in your industry. They might just be a friend or a mate or somebody's introduced you or somebody's husband or wife or whatever else that you go, oh, what do you do and how do you do that? And
Someone else's husband or wife. That's
well, you know, they're just a friend. They could be.
I like that.
You know what I mean? Okay, that did not come out the way I meant that to be.
I know what you were saying.
You know what I mean?
No, I
You
love
know,
that. Yes.
When you're just socially and you're out and you meet somebody and you find what they do and you're like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, find the things that
Pick their brain.
pick
and-
their brain. Yeah. Be curious.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Well,
that'd-
Janene, thank
be
you
happy.
so much for jumping on the Let's Talk Facilities podcast.
My pleasure. The other thing I would say though,
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
as an
bonus.
FM, if you were out there and on your own, you could go and do something like join the FMA.
Ah, that's what I was fishing for.
So some networking. Go and meet some other people that are completely, you know, different organisations, whatever. To, you know, whether they're FMs or they're vendors. Vendors are great people to ask questions.
Well, that's how I met you, is through the FMA, and I like.
I actually met you at ANZ, but that was such a long time ago. You were a baby.
Yes, but like more recently, the way we've been connected is
that's
through
right.
that, and it's a space that I've learned so much just coming in as a new person to the industry.
Yeah.
I've grown and learned so much by coming to some of these events and going, I had no idea about IoT sensors until I was at an event. And then I was like,
correct.
that's an important part of a facility.
True.
But I learn all the time from that. I just think you'll be at something and you go, oh, wow, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
That gives me somebody I can call on. And normally you don't know that you need that information until
You need it.
Do you need it?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you're like, I remember I was talking to somebody who dealt with X, Y, and Z, and you're like, who was that? You know?
Yeah.
And somebody will know somebody. But it's
Absolutely.
a really great way, if you are, absolutely, if you're new to the game, even if you're not, I think it just broadens your horizon. We get stale. You know, you get on a job and you just know your own little space.
Yeah.
Branch out a bit, go and do something
Be agile.
that just, or give back. You know, if you've been in a space for a really long time and you're the expert in that space, FMA is a really great way to be able to give it back, pay it forward to other people that.
Well, and that's classic example is yourself. Like you've been in the industry for a while, but you're still invested going in and you're giving back to the FMA
Yeah, well,
because you find value in it, obviously.
absolutely. But because that's how I learnt. You know, I had people that gave it forward to me, and that's, you know, my opportunity with, I would hope that I might be able to help somebody, you know, with
And-
one of my wonderful pearls of wisdom.
And while the sessions in some of those day events and the workshops and the panels that they have are really great, what happens outside of those in the breakout times, the over morning tea, over a glass of champagne, that's the stuff that's vital and valuable.
Yeah, go and play a bit of lawn bowls and you know, and chit chat with somebody that you would never normally meet. That you know, that's where the real magic happens.
Yeah.
It's just the chit chat and having a conversation. Like in your own building, you'd be going. It's the water bubbler conversations where you've gone to grab yourself a coffee or whatever, and you've talked to somebody that you didn't know, or you find out that they need something or you need something, and that's where the fun starts.
I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.